From BB's Delta Blues to Memphis, calling Elvis with their blue suede shoes. From Boston to Nebraska, now should anyone ask ya? We are America. We are America. Oh, it's so wonderful. We are America.
Good afternoon and welcome to Virginia's Views and Vibes. I'm your host, Ginny Gardner, and before we start this afternoon, I'd like to again bring your attention to the only bracelets of the Virginia's Views and Vibes show, Emily's Bracelets. She's on Facebook and www.emilysbracelets.com. And as I say every week, Emily has cerebral palsy. This is a charity that she does for the Special Olympics, and all donations go to the Special Olympics. I hope you'll check her out, and Emily's bracelets are my favorite bracelets, and I'm going to get one for my guest, Tick Mandan. Welcome back. Welcome back. I can't sing.
Thank you.
It's been a while.
It has been a while, and a lot has changed since the last time I saw you.
Yeah, including your mask, which if you'd like to take off your tick mask right here.
Yes, my tick mask, but do you mind if I take it off?
You may take it off.
We're
the
distanced.
Yep, we are socially distanced
and safe. By the way,
safe.
ticks do not follow social distancing.
So that means we need to talk about ticks. And you know what? What do I say to you? April showers bring May ticks. I know, corny. But in actual fact, they're here all year. Is that correct?
That is correct. Tick season is all year round, and it depends on where you are and what the weather conditions are like.
Wow. So they do not die in the ice cold in the winter?
They don't. As a matter of fact, the deer tick, which is the one that I mostly know about, tends to live around 2 years. So they have no problems whatsoever sort of overwintering, so to speak. As a matter of fact, one of the many, many fascinating things about these creatures is their body secretes a substance called glycerol, which is like antifreeze for their cells. And if that wasn't bad enough, the glycerol, if there is a Lyme bacteria present within this tick, it's producing glycerol to keep it from freezing, but the Lyme bacteria actually can feed off that glycerol. So it's a symbiotic relationship, and it allows the bacteria to stay active and alive.
Wow. And they're actually part of the spider family, correct? Or
that's correct.
But they go as far back as what? Any idea? I mean, like cavemen, have they already? They've been here forever. It feels like, and they are a hardy bunch. So you can get them. You can get them in the fall. I'm sorry, not in the fall. In the winter, you can get them in the winter.
Absolutely.
You actually can.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it. Areas most common for Lyme disease have always traditionally been the Northeast and the Upper Midwest. If you think about areas, and we have cold winters, or we used to have very cold winters. It seems to be getting a little bit warmer as of late. But Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Canadian border, they've, it's really cold sometimes for a long period of time. But that glycerol helps the ticks kind of remain inactive but alive. And as soon as we get a couple of 3 days in a row of warmer temperatures above freezing, you'll see these guys out like crazy, and they're just sort of ravenous. So I think the most ticks I collected intentionally was in a February, I think 2 or 3 years ago here in Weston, Massachusetts. I was collecting them at 40 to 50 per hour.
You're kidding.
I kid you not.
So I want to back up a little bit. First of all, you've been doing this for 7 years. I thought for 10. I think you've always been around, Tick Mandan. And for 7 years. And you started out just yourself, kind of trying to get this off the ground. And it is expanded. I know you have your webpage, www, let's see, let me make sure I say it right, Tick Mandan or Tickies?
It's tickies.com,
Tickies.
T-I-C-K-E-A-S-E.
Easy to remember, tickies.com. And then you're on Facebook, which is great to see because you do a lot live on Facebook.
Absolutely. I've been trying to get or find the time to do more content and more, provide more resources and education about ticks, because I think if you know your enemy,
Yeah.
you have a better chance to prevent, in this case, illness, and try to maybe reduce the amount of bites that you are exposed to, for sure.
Why does it feel like 20 years ago, suddenly everyone was seeing ticks and getting ticks? Had we just not noticed, or what brought this out in mass all of a sudden?
It's interesting. And you said, you mentioned 7 years. 7 years since I started the company, Tickies.
Yeah.
But I've been really fascinated and kind of obsessed with ticks for well over 25 years now.
Wow.
And I am not a formally trained entomologist or any kind of scientist, but I certainly have been researching and doing a lot of self-teaching for quite some time, and a lot of it's just from direct experience. As a matter of fact, I'm estimating that I've been bitten by deer ticks in excess of 225 times in my life. And I've had the opportunity to...
Wait, you pulled 220 ticks off your body?
Off of my body.
Oh, that's disgusting, but go ahead.
And everywhere you can imagine, I've had them. And that's, frankly, that's why I came up with the idea for the tick removal tool.
Yep.
That
I have used. It's fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly, what do they say? Invention is the, what's the expression?
Necessity is the mother of invention. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly was that way with me.
You're an outdoorsman, so that's sort of why you got all these. It's not like I'm in my backyard sunbathing or something.
And just to your point earlier, when I was growing up, I actually grew up in near in the suburbs of Washington, D.C.
Really?
I never remember experiencing ticks. I came to Massachusetts, when I was about 13 or 14. And back then, we didn't sit in front of the video on the computer all day long. Yeah. We were outside, no cell phones, no internet, nothing. And we would just, raise heck.
Run through the... I grew up on the Charles River in Auburndale, and we were in the woods all the time. My backyard abutted it, and I never remember, getting a tick. So it's kind of like they said, "Ha-ha, we're gonna get you," and all of a sudden showed up in groups.
Yeah, and I'm feeling like there was a bunch of different things that happened all kind of at the same time, that sort of a perfect storm of ingredients that allowed the tick populations to really rapidly increase. And a lot of that, especially in our suburban areas, suburban settings. Yeah, I think the trend for warmer winters was helpful. The fact that the certain types of nut trees, I think they call it a mast year when there's a lot of acorns.
Yeah.
And that will support small rodents, particularly the mice, which are actually what they call the reservoir host for a lot of the pathogens that get into the ticks, among other types of rodents. So basically, you have more nuts, you have more rodents because they feed on those acorns.
Yeah.
Then you have more of a reservoir for these pathogens. Wow. Then you have, generally speaking, a lot more wildlife. I mean, I'm talking deer and foxes and coyotes and raccoons. And now we see them all over. I have a Ring camera, and I see every night. I'm seeing like Wild Kingdom in my backyard or my front yard right here in Waltham.
Wow.
And so there's a vehicle or a medium for these ticks to be spreading.
Yeah.
And a good example is the deer populations in our suburban settings have just skyrocketed.
That's right.
So while the deer is what's known as an incompetent host, meaning they don't support many of the pathogens that will get us sick, but they are a means for spreading and a good place for a tick to take its last meal and also to mate at the same time. So what you'll do is you'll find a lot of adult male ticks mating with female ticks while they're feeding on a deer. And I've seen that thousands of times. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 where you'll turn over the female tick and the male tick will be stuck right here, and that's where it deposits its sperm sac right here on the, I guess
And then
this
he
would be-
dies, by the way.
And then the
then
male
he
dies.
dies. He doesn't live much
He
longer
doesn't even
after
want
that.
to eat, you know, and she's just sitting back and eating and
So
having fun
they-
with the guys.
And then she kills him off. Well, they kill off themselves.
Well, you
I
just, yeah, that's
guess.
it. Once that sperm sac is released, he's finished. He'll fall off and die, and then she'll feed, she'll drop off, and she can lay upwards of 2,000 to 3,000 eggs.
And when do
And
they?
then she dies.
And then she does.
That's
After
the
she
end
laid
of her,
cycle,
of the life cycle. But here's the thing. If you think about a deer and how many hundreds of ticks they could potentially
Yeah.
be carrying, how many of those are feeding females, and even if you think, okay, well, maybe 5 pregnant females can drop off a tick every 24 hours in the fall,
Yeah.
and a deer might be in my yard one night,
Right.
3/4 of a mile away in someone else's yard the next night, half a mile away this way the next night, 5 ticks, 5 ticks, 5 ticks times, let's even just say 2,000 eggs. That's
Oh my
10,000 eggs here, there, and everywhere. And this is why we get this growing area of where ticks are spreading. But also they can spread via birds and other migratory animals. And it's just amazing how this is all occurring. Now we're seeing different types of ticks. We're seeing different types of diseases. So it's not just Lyme disease. I mean, we really have to think about this in general as tick-borne illnesses.
Yeah.
Although Lyme disease is certainly the one that seems to get the most press, but there's other things coming, and we don't know, you know, the unknown is also frightening. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. Could ticks can carry viruses, parasites, and bacteria.
Yeah.
What if COVID gets in the ticks? I mean, the deer have been testing positive for COVID.
They have?
Absolutely.
I did not know that.
States have been running tests during hunting season where they're taking blood from the harvested deer and checking it for COVID. And there are a lot of positives
Wow.
showing up.
I did not know
So,
that.
you know, it could be trouble.
Yeah. You leave me speechless
The
because
best
I
thing
mean,
that, you know,
what,
ticks, bad.
Yeah.
What we need to do is we need to have more education,
yeah.
more just information. Okay, you know, there's a lot of people out there that talk about Lyme disease, but let's focus more on not getting bitten in the first place
Right.
and taking the right steps if you do discover a tick is attached to you. And the reason that I'm so passionate, when I was starting to get all those tick bites, I had 2 little boys at home. I was a single dad.
Yeah.
I had 2 dogs, and we were very active. So, you know, I was coming in after being in the woods, you know, in the area, and I would find ticks everywhere. I'd find them on my kids. I'd find them on the dogs.
In your bed, because
In
the
my bed.
dog climbs on to your bed, and the kids, if they have them. It just really quick. The question for me is, if I find a tick, and it's not going to be where I can see it, obviously, but if I find a tick, if I get it off right away, is there less of a chance, or is it almost immediately when they start digging in with all those chemicals they have, and digging in, is it immediate, or how long, I guess, would you feel that wasn't long enough for them to be in?
Yeah.
I guess
I
is my
would-
question. Or
I would start being cautious the minute you discover that tick.
yeah,
It is true that the longer the tick is attached,
yeah,
the more at risk you become. So it is always a good rule of thumb, remove that tick as quickly as you can, but also to do it as properly as you
right,
can.
right.
And if you
And
look,
talk about that
yeah.
because when we were first told about ticks and they started showing up,
I
they
know you're
did
gonna
such
say.
crazy things as, well, put Vaseline on them so you'll suffocate them and they'll back out. Or hit them with a cigarette, the end of a cigarette, to burn them.
right, right.
And or just pull them with your fingernails or something. And that none of that is true and none of that is right. So along comes Tickmandium with this, and I've used this, so I can't say enough about it. It should be in every home,
Right.
especially here in where I live in Wayland, Newton, everywhere where you're near water and in woods, and actually they're invading every place. This one, I feel, I've taken 2 ticks out now since I have had this. One, and both are my granddaughters, by the way.
Yeah, well, I will tell you about this, but just to get back to your earlier
Yeah.
question, get the tick off quickly.
Yeah.
Because while some studies, and I don't have an opinion either way, I don't want to get involved with he said this and they did
Right,
this and we
right.
don't believe that. But some studies had shown that it takes a little while for the Lyme bacteria to become active.
Oh,
So
okay.
once they start feeding, it takes a little while for them to go from the midgut of this tick and exit through the salivary glands and get into the host.
So get it off
So
as soon
they
as
say,
possible.
24 to 36 hours. So somebody says, I've had this tick in for me a few hours. I removed it, I'm okay. I don't believe that that's true because those other types of
Yeah.
pathogens, viruses and bacteria and parasites, they all have different transmission times. We now know that a potentially deadly virus called Powassan Virus, which is showing up more and more, there was actually just a reported death in Maine this week
Really?
for the first time in quite some time. That can be transmitted within 15 minutes.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, you might be safe. I mean, some people think you might be safe from getting Lyme disease.
yeah. you
But
could
what about
get it.
anaplasmosis and Rocky Mountain spotted fever and Powassan virus and
COVID.
alpha-gal and, I mean, all
Yeah,
these
COVID.
other things. So you just want to make sure you get the tick off correctly. And by the way, I'm no rocket scientist here. This is just a modified or a specialized two-sided tweezer. You know,
Okay.
everybody was saying, when I was doing my research, and I've removed more than, I'd say, 3,000 live ticks from things, okay, in my career. And I've tried every method possible
Yeah.
just to try it out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, during the hunting season, I was able to look at harvested animals and remove ticks that were still alive from them. So using substances to get them off, and it's not going to harm the host if
Yeah.
the host is already dead. So, so we tried a lot of different methods. The most recommended method from the experts that I looked at said to use a pointy tweezer.
Yeah.
So I designed this product with an angle, so you're able to get
Yeah.
right into these little crevice-y areas. And as a matter of fact, I've had nymphal stage deer ticks feed inside my belly button. Okay, so
So you
there's,
have to be able to.
there's some other devices out there. I would call them more like gadgets.
Yeah.
Where they have these, you know, you're supposed to twist and slide under, but they will not work with nymphal stage ticks. As a matter of fact,
Because they're so
I
tiny,
doubt we're
tiny.
going to be able to show the audience here, but if you look here, I can't even see them. Those are nymphal stage.
Wow. They're like they're
don't know
not
if we'll be
even
able to
as
see.
big as a head of a pin. More like the needle. They're that
They're
small.
very small. So the younger a tick is, the smaller it is.
Yeah.
And also, the good news about younger ticks is that they have less of an infection rate.
Oh, really?
The bad news is more people get sick from them because they can't find
Can't
them.
find them.
So it's important to also be able to remove them correctly. And I have two sides on this tool.
Yeah.
One is for larger ticks that you're able to scoop. And lift.
And you go in sideways,
You
not.
go in sideways. So
Why is that?
for example, when the tick is
Yeah.
feeding like this, okay?
Okay.
This is the only part that's in your skin, is the mouth part.
Okay.
It's a
And the rest
barbed
blows up.
straw. Right, and you could get some infection, some swelling around this bite,
Yeah.
the bite site. So you want to go in this way, because this way you might loosen up or crush the connection where the mouth part meets the
Yeah.
the bottom of the tick or the top of the tick.
Yeah.
So you always want to go in sideways like this and then lift straight up in the direction it's feeding. That's the best way to do it, and it's also agitates the tick the least if you go in quick, squeeze, and lift. I mean, there are some methods out there where they're telling you to freeze the tick or smother it or put stuff on top of it and wait. You don't want to, it's not necessary.
Yeah.
It's just not necessary to twist the tick off either. These are, the mouth part is barbed, not threaded. Why would you want to twist it
Yeah.
out?
So if you happen to leave something in, let's say you don't go in right or something gets left in, should you then go to the urgent care or ER and have them take the rest of it out? Or at that point is whatever you got out enough that it's not able to squirt any more germs in? Or
You got it.
So it's
you're right on the
okay.
money with that one.
so it's
The mouth part is just a very small, tiny straw, like barbed appendage. That's the only thing that sticks in your skin.
Okay.
The outer sheath or the pouch will flatten out and basically like this.
yeah.
So if you do break that off, I mean, it's not, super strong, but you should be able to remove it
Yeah.
completely if you do it correctly. You're at no further risk of exposure.
Okay.
Because once you've removed the body of that tick, you've removed the
mess
the
inside.
kind of the yucky tick juice is what I call it.
Yeah.
So even if you leave that little piece in it, it'll only act as like a little splinter.
Okay.
It'll come out typically on its own or resolve itself in a matter of days.
I don't want to hike anymore. Antiseptic, antibiotics, immediately should, especially for a child, you put on, my father's go-to, I'm going to age myself from a Curacone, but do you put on a bacitracin or something like that immediately?
You could. I would strongly suggest cleaning and keeping that bite site very clean.
Okay.
Just to avoid any type of local infection, and possibly if there's any kind of, again,
Yeah.
that yucky tick juice
Yeah.
there, it is an entrance into the body. Plus, if you've touched that tick, you want to wash your hands
Yeah.
good because you don't want to get
Touch your
any in
face
the-
or-
yeah,
yeah.
or in your nose or anything like that.
Well, I don't know if I want to run anywhere. I run through the streets of Wayland. Now you're going to see me with a big bag over my head. And
Well,
when you
there's
wear the
things you can do,
nets, I mean, yeah, you've got, and that brings me to, by the way, the Instant Insect Shield.
Sure, it's
And
great.
it's for dogs, and then there's a clothing line that you're involved with, which is treated so that, because the sprays won't necessarily work, because they're not going to, ticks don't just fly away. They find someplace, and they could go behind your
Right.
knee or your elbow or your eye. I had one in my ear, the back of my head, over my eye. And I know you told me about a child about 2 years ago that actually had one in his eardrum. And they had to have it removed by, I guess, a surgeon.
Yeah.
And that's why, and you say this all the time, every day when your child goes out, before they take a shower, check for ticks. And in all the places we don't like to talk about, check for ticks, especially boys, but check for ticks everywhere. And your
Absolutely.
dog too, I guess, because they
Yeah.
get into on your couch and your bed, and
They do, and the dogs typically are wearing some type of repellent preventative as well. And the reason that I like the, and this is one of my newest products, it's the Tickies tick repelling bandana for dogs, and
Yeah.
it is a licensed product from Insect Shield. And basically, it's got the permethrin embedded in the fibers. They have a proprietary application process.
Yeah.
It's approved by the EPA. It's safe for
Safe.
humans, safe for dogs, not recommended for cats, though. But this
Oh.
is great as an added layer of protection because the ticks have to touch it, first of all, in order to be affected by it.
Yeah.
This remains effective for this particular material, which is a poly blend, I believe, for up to 25 washings. There's other
Wow.
materials that will last up to 70 washings.
Yeah, I think you told me about
So
that. And
it-
even in the dryer?
You
Or
dry,
no?
yeah, and you can, it even works wet. So this is an added layer of protection because again, ticks have to touch it,
Yeah.
and it's an acaricide. So when dogs come in with these repellents, the tick may not like it and be repelled but not killed.
Yeah.
So this kind of adds that little bonus protection on top of that. So they actually will die from that. So you might find a dead tick in your bed, but a dead tick in your bed
Yeah,
is better
it's
than
okay.
a live tick
But
in
you,
your bed.
but you can then just flush it. But if you pull a live tick, you should not flush it because they can live underwater. So
Well,
you should really burn
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Or stomp it
if
till all its legs fall off.
Yes, but if it has been attached to you,
Yeah.
always save
Right,
it.
save it.
Don't get rid of it.
That's right.
The thing about it is ticks breathe through their abdomens. You can't really see them too well here, but they're called spiracles.
Yep.
And they may only breathe somewhere between 1 and a few times per hour. So they're really weird creatures, and they might last the flushing, survive
Yeah.
the flushing.
Yeah.
But they have been, found to remain alive underwater for a couple of days.
Let's talk about this because I love
Okay.
this.
Yes.
This is a new Tickies that you can take with you, and it has. Can I open it?
Yeah. I have one here.
You have one open. Why don't you open that?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
It is the
Awesome.
newest product, and remember we were talking about when you do get a tick, like the question pops into a lot of people's minds. What do I do next?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Little Johnny comes home and says, Mommy, what's this bump behind my ear? Well, now Mommy can reach for the tick kit.
Yeah.
And it basically takes you through, step by step, what to do for proper removal,
Yep.
how to collect it and save it, how to take a picture of it and send it down to our friends at the University of Rhode Island, who will give you a health risk assessment. They take into all these factors into consideration and can tell you based on where you are, what type of tick it was, how long it was attached to you, what illnesses might be trending in that particular geographic region at this particular time of the year, and therefore you're at a low, moderate, or high risk for infection. Wow. And what do you do for each level? Well, it gives you those options as well, and if one of those options is tick testing, you can go to Tick Report, which is formerly out of UMass,
Yep.
and you can get that tick tested and even save a few bucks with a promo code TICKIES. So you'd pull out the instructions.
Excellent.
They have step-by-step what to do. You've got your Tickies tweezer. You've got your antibiotic, and there's enough for 5 extractions here. You've got your antiseptic swabs. You've got your antibiotic ointment. You've got your magnifier. You've got your tick collection bags, and that you can write directly on the bags the information needed for proper testing.
So I think the message from this show is check for ticks. And don't forget your crevices.
Don't neglect your
Don't
crevices.
neglect your say it again, because I'm messing this up.
Tickman Dan says,
Tickman Dan says.
do your daily tick checks and don't neglect your crevices.
And that's why he's saying it. And you can reach him at 855-TICK-READY or Dan at tickies.com, No, I messed this up again, but now you're going to say it.
www.tickies.com.
And just talk a little bit about this. The most important tool you can have is this little thing you can carry. All parents should have it. If you're a runner, if you play in your yard, if you go hiking, this is it. Because I stay calm. I look at the green cards, and I just follow it. And then at the end, antibiotic, ointment, you can then calmly send this in, call your doctor. And this is always tick season, and you're always out in the yard. And I think this is the most important message, young or old. These things are disgustingly dangerous. So your final words, Dan?
Well, again, I think you've said it all. You just need to know, first of all, you need to be prepared. Secondly, you need to know exactly what to do once you've been bitten. And just be aware and just do those daily tick checks.
And again, pick one of these up. They will save you some time with running around the house trying to figure out what to do. Don't light a match. Don't use Vaseline. And save them if they're alive. And come back again. This was fun, and you're all
like
ticked
a tick,
out.
You can't get rid of me.
You're all ticked out.
Yes.
Here we go. Join us again in 2 weeks, guys. Bye-bye.